but at the same time, like, or I also shared the example of, we had, this was a different situation. You have the parent conference, up until that point, I've communicated through email, communicated by phone, everything's great. Oh, we love you. We love you. Great, great, great. Have a conference. They see my face, reach out to shake their hand. And there's that casual, oh, I didn't see your hand, but yes, I did. But nobody else knows what happened in the room except me and that person. And you're like, okay, all right, I know what's going on here. And, and it's easy to become frustrated by it. But again, you have to know people are going to do the things that they do. It's how you respond to it. And so it doesn't mean that you just kind of never say anything, but you have to know, is this one of those times where I should say something and, point the situation out? Or is it better for my own peace of mind, for me to just, what, let me let that one go, because it happens so often that sometimes we almost become desensitized to it.
Welcome to Inclusion and Marketing, the show that's all about helping you develop the skills and insights you need to win the attention, adoration, and loyalty of more consumers and talent, especially those with differences that are often ignored by brands. This episode is part of a special edition series on the podcast I'm doing for Black History Month called Listen to Them, where Black talent and consumers share their real-life stories and perspectives on working in teams and inclusive marketing. When this goes live, we are in Black History Month 2023, but the content is relevant always, especially when you consider how important it is to engage with underrepresented and underserved communities you're working to woo all year long. I also want to note that while the episodes in the series focus on Black talent and consumers, the insights you'll glean from their stories can help you as you work to serve talent and consumers from other marginalized communities as well. Let's get to it. Did you know that most businesses only use 20% of their data? That's like reading a book with most of the pages torn out or paying for a coffee that's just 1/5 full. Point is, you miss a lot unless you use HubSpot. Their customer platform gives you access to the data you need to grow your business. The insights trapped in emails, call logs, and transcripts, all that unstructured data that makes all the difference. Because when you know more, you grow more. And when you get a full cup of coffee, you can do more too. But I digress. Visit HubSpot.com today. When my daughter was 1, she went through a bit of a pinching phase. My mom was on the receiving end of many of those pinches. Now, you wouldn't think that a pinch, let alone a pinch from a baby, would cause any damage. But my mom told me that she looked at her arm after those pinches and had a big, giant bruise. I often think of microaggressions as like those little pinches and sometimes even slaps or punches. I'm Sonia Thompson, an inclusive brand coach and strategist, and in this special edition episode of the Inclusion and Marketing podcast, you're going to hear firsthand accounts of microaggressions people have experienced. Here's the official definition of a microaggression: a statement, action, or incident regarded as an instance of indirect, subtle, or unintentional discrimination against members of a marginalized group, such as a racial or ethnic minority. Microaggressions are often unintentional. However, intent is never a marker of success or not. It's how we make others feel. So even if you had good intentions, if the recipient of an action feels harmed, then harm was caused. And that is a place we build and work from to do better in the future. It should also be noted that there are times when people deliver microaggressions and have no idea that they are. They have no idea of the impact that it has on others because in many instances, the recipient of the microaggression doesn't say anything. As the world starts to become more diverse and our teams and the people we work with start to become more diverse, stamping out microaggressions becomes critical in your efforts to make everyone on your team and the people you serve feel like they belong with you. Learning about the microaggressions people experience, how they make them feel, and the impact of microaggressions on working relationships and team dynamics is a great start toward rooting them out of your culture. Let's listen in on some stories.
So at the time when I was transitioning from relaxed, chemically straightened hair to I was wearing braids. And so I remember the first day that I came in with braids in, some people in my building, they were like, "Oh my gosh, you look so different. Can I touch your hair?" And even then, like, because I know those people, it didn't bother me, but I knew that if they had said that to someone that they didn't know, it would have been taken differently. But they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, can I touch it?"
You're very articulate. Like, why wouldn't I be? It's just, to me, it's annoying. It's the most annoying thing. And it's not even at work all the time. It's outside of work. Had it in high school. Oh, you speak so well. How should I speak? What did you expect? Did you expect me to not know English properly? Did you expect me to talk like I'm a dope dealer? No disrespect to dope dealers, but there's a certain lingo when you're in a certain environment and you speak whatever, ebonics, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, I'm enunciating all of my words. So you enunciate your words and I enunciate my words. But why do I speak well? Why? Is it because I have melanated skin, or you had just expected something less than intelligence to come out of my mouth?
I had a student in my class. We had a conference. The student was doing better in my class and failing everybody else's. But once they had seen my face, that was no longer unacceptable. And that child was no longer in my class. And so, but yet they stayed in the places where they were unsuccessful. And they were like,
So like,
"Oh my
wait, let me clarify. The student was unsuccessful, but they were successful in your class. When the parents saw that you were Black, the student was moved from your class.
Yes, and stayed in the places where they were unsuccessful. And there was no reason given, oh, the parent just, thought this would be the best move, that type of thing. Because, how do you explain that? But at the same time, like, or I also shared the example of, we have, this was a different situation. You have the parent conference, up until that point, I've communicated through email, communicated by phone, everything's great. Oh, we love you. We love you. Great, great, great. Have a conference, they see my face, reach out to shake their hand, and there's that casual, "Oh, I didn't see your hand, but yes, I did," but nobody else knows what happened in the room except me and that person. And you're like, "Okay, all right, I know what's going on here." And and it's easy to become frustrated by it, but again, you have to know people are going to do the things that they do. It's how you respond to it. And so it doesn't mean that you just kind of never say anything, but you have to know, is this one of those times where I should say something and, point the situation out? Or is it better for my own peace of mind, for me to just, what, let me let that one go? Because it happens so often that sometimes we almost become desensitized to it. And then later you're like, oh, wait a minute. And I mean, you could just be upset and bothered all the time. And so you kind of have to decide, what are those things you just brush off and what are those things that you say or do something about.
I want to say recently, probably a couple of months ago, we was at a team out my branch had a lunch, and I don't want to put it as a race thing, but I took offense to it because we was all having a good time, and then came down and like taking a picture, and then so she said, it came out of nowhere and in front of the two supervisors, "Hey Brenda, why are you trying to touch my hand? I'm married." And then so it caught me off guard initially, and then my first reaction was to again let her have it, but then I didn't want to come at like I'm the angry person. And then I just simply said that I didn't try to touch her hand. I'm not trying to get no harassment charge or nothing like that. And I just left it cool. But then as the day progressed and I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, there's so many avenues. Like, what if they would have took that as a serious thing, that I was really trying to rub on her hand, knowing that she's married? The supervisor brought me in the office, and there was a lot of cases. Then you mentioned, I think of Emmett Till, what happened. The white woman basically cried wolf, that he whistled at her and he didn't. and then they could have had serious repercussions. So that's kind of where my head was thinking when she said that.
Oh, wow. Okay. So she's a white woman, just to clarify?
Yeah.
I want to pause here and go back to this reference of Emmett Till. For some, what this woman said about him trying to touch her hand may have been harmless. But for this gentleman sharing his story, he's carrying the baggage in his mind of an event that happened in 1955 as a reason why her actions were serious and harmful. Emmett Till was a 14-year-old African-American kid from Chicago who went on a family vacation to visit relatives in Mississippi. While he was there, he was accused of flirting with a married white woman by the name of Carolyn Bryant, who said he whistled at her. A few days later, Bryant's husband and his half-brother abducted Emmett Till, tortured, shot, and lynched him. They were acquitted of the crime. Decades later, Carolyn Bryant admitted her claims against the young boy were false. At Till's funeral, his mother demanded an open casket so as not to hide his mutilated body and to send a message, focus attention, and spark outrage about what happened to her son.
I'm going to go back to the hair because that just, it happened to me in the current position that I'm in now about touching the hair. They don't know that it's not okay. They, meaning people that are not Black, that it's not okay to just touch your hair and, like make inappropriate comments about it. Like, oh, like in Black culture, you don't just run your fingers through anybody's hair. But then I had somebody in leadership just recently ran her fingers through my hair in an attempt to try to help me, right? Like I guess my hair was sticking out and she did that. But this same person would never run their hands through somebody else's hair. But what makes it okay to do that to me, right? Whether you know it's real or not, those are the things that we have to do because we change our hair a lot, right? So those are some of the things, that was an example of the things that we have to deal with. The talk, like walking into a room and saying good morning to everybody. But then when you get to the Black persons, it's, hey girl, what's up? And it's like, well, you didn't say, hey girl, what's up to her? Why you, hey girl, and what's up to me? So those are the small things, but that are noticeable. Like you change the way that you talk when you talk to me. Like I'm not professional because I hold like a certain degree. I would think that you would go out of your way to talk a little bit more professional to me, but you dummy it down to talk to me instead of speaking to me the way that you speak to the next person.
I'm certain I have, I guess, right. It's like even now, I'm thinking about microaggressions, or is it just someone's personality but I guess a microaggression I've experienced is I'll say something I'll say a word or to describe something and someone will chime in to explain what I said. And it's I think everyone can understand what I said. It's not I need your help to explain my, what I said to them or use another word to describe it or try to correct the word that I said. That what I said is just fine. It's not it needed to be corrected, but you had to add your 2 cents in about it or whatever. Yeah, I think the thing of being corrected when it's that didn't need to be corrected. I don't need to be corrected. Or microaggression of there's majority of white people in this space and everyone's getting introduced and then I don't get included in that. So I have to, I'll put myself out there, whatever, but it's just why am I being left out of the circle? We're all here, that sort of thing. I can go down the list.
Probably till this day, the biggest thing I get is, are you old enough to be doing this? Or are you old enough to be giving me this advice? Or you look really young.
Yeah. And I was having a conversation recently. Why are you so comfortable to approach me and ask me if my hair is real? Why is that okay?
Has somebody asked you that? Has somebody done that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because of, all races taking into weaves and extensions and braids and everything else. And so now it's socially okay to ask an intrusive, inappropriate question that way. What if I don't want you to know about my hair? What if it is real and I don't want you to know that either? What if I don't want to talk about it, And so those are other things. And these are the most fresh on my mind, just surrounding physical appearance.
Okay, I've got another podcast recommendation for you. It's Augmenters, hosted by Julie Meyer and Jimmy Edgerton, and it's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. So on this show, Julie and Jimmy dive into mentoring and explore ways to augment and refresh the mentoring environment. They're using 8 core principles that weave relevant spirit guides and diverse guests, and Julie and Jimmy use a lot of humor and practical tips to help mentors and mentees get further, faster together. There's so many great episodes to tune into for this show, but one that you might find especially interesting is their latest episode, number 120, Mentoring Across Gender, Men as Allies and Mentors. Listen to Augmenters wherever you get your podcasts. As you can see, microaggressions are varied. Sometimes they come off as jokes, but to the recipient, it isn't funny. Other times it comes off as questioning someone unnecessarily. And still other times it's in making inappropriate comments about someone's appearance or violating their personal space or body. As mentioned earlier, even though the impact of microaggressions is felt by the recipient, the person delivering it may not even know the impact they are having on others. And people on the receiving end often grapple with whether or not to say something and when.
Depends on where I'm at. If I'm at work, kind of have to not give it a pass, but just kind of walk away, control my response, only because I might say something that will cause me to get myself into some trouble I don't want to be in. I mean, rolling my eyes depends on if I'm not at work so much, but if I'm out in public, it's just like, shaking your head. I mean, because I don't want to say you get used to it, but it becomes the norm, so to speak. So it's just like, whatever, move on. It happens all the time. But we shouldn't feel like that. But in reality, that's kind of where I'm at. Unless you're just going to be blatantly disrespectful, then that's another reaction.
I call it as it comes. And that came with time. Because especially if it's somebody in leadership position, like you're just like, oh no, I don't want to create these issues or these problems. But I learned that you got to call it right when it happens. Like, and the way that I did it when she ran her fingers through my hair was like that immediate response of, what do you think you're doing? You don't do, and it wasn't the most tactful way to do it. But then I had to have a conversation with her. Like, okay, I was wrong in my delivery. However, it's like if a guy comes up to you and grabs your butt, you're not going to be like, can you please don't touch my butt, right? It was just that immediate reaction, but you have to call it as it comes to address it. So that way it doesn't happen again, because I can guarantee you she won't run her fingers through my hair again, or if you're code switching, like how you talk with me, calling that as it happens too. Why are you talking to me like that? But you didn't talk to them like that. You got to call it on them every single time. So that's how I deal with it. We got to talk about it. Let's have these conversations.
How has the response been?
It's hit or miss. It's just like, oh, well, actually her response to me initially was, well, I was trying to help you out. So now you're trying to play victim because I put you on blast, right? But then there are some people that are just like, I had no idea, So there's both. There's the like, oh, I'm offended. But then there's some like, thanks for telling me that. I had no idea.
I usually just like take note of it in the moment, and I'll let someone have, like, you can have it now, but like I'm definitely aware of it in the future if it happens again. I mean, it's probably just my passive aggressive way of just responding to it, or like, oh yeah, like, just making them aware of like what I said was fine, or it's like, yeah, that's what I just said, or just something like that. Like, so where they're also realizing I don't know if it's like they realize what they're doing, but it's just, I feel like I have to somehow get the last word in after, or just, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know how I respond to them either. I don't know if I really am,
So sometimes it's like you do whenever you're saying like, I didn't need to be corrected. And then other times it's, I'm going to take a note to see how you are with other people or how you are with me in the future. Like in the case of them not introducing you.
Yeah, right. Just be more proactive in that way. I guess like I can do a little tit for tat. So if I see an opening for an opportunity as well, just like throw it back at them at those times. And so that's kind of like my way of dealing. It's like, oh, all right, this is how we want to be. Sure, if this is the dynamic now, I can do that too, you know.
But you have to learn to recognize, or at least assume, what is the person's intent behind it. And often there is no harm meant, but at the same time, it can still, to the wrong person, it could be taken that way. For example, last year, I had a conversation with a coworker, and very kind of, she was reflecting out loud. And she said, I've learned recently that you're not allowed to say that you sound articulate because people might be offended by it. And so I thought for a few seconds, because she was really kind of musing out loud, and it was more directed to another person, but I happened to be in the room. So there was a little bit of a pause. And I was like, do I say something? Do I not say something? Do I say something? Do I not say something? Especially because the person that she was more so talking to was not a person of color. And so finally I was like, well, here's how to think about that. I said, if you don't know a person, and after an initial meeting, you're saying, oh, you sound articulate, the message that conveys is that you didn't expect them to be, which is why it can be received as being offensive. I said, but if it's somebody that you know and you know well, and you're saying, you know what, we've got to do this presentation, and out of the two of us, you can articulate your thoughts a little bit better than I can. I think you should be the one to do this pitch, even though we worked on it together. Well, that's not going to be taken as an insult, because they're just saying this is an area you have a skill in. And she was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I get it. And so it's kind of navigating in those spaces. Like, when do you let people say things that shows their bias or lack of understanding and just let it go? And when do you insert yourself and say something to further their understanding? And it really does come from, where's this person? What is their purpose in saying what they said? Like, because some people will intentionally say things to be mean, and then other people are genuinely just trying to figure it out. And if somebody's just trying to figure it out, I'm going to help them to understand, because they may not have had experiences or opportunities that would even present them with thinking about things in a different way that's different than from their own personal experience.
No matter how microaggressions come, they have the power to negatively impact team dynamics or the deepening of relationships.
I'm very picky about when I put myself in position, like communication or being around them. It's like, definitely it's people I have to continue to be in meetings with or interact with here and there, but I really only do that when I have to. And then outside of that, I don't really interact. Or like, I also try to sometimes like always be the bigger person and like continue to like just show up as a normal person and not show that I'm bothered by those actions and that I'm bigger than those actions. And like, at the end of the day, you'll kind of be the only one looking like you have a problem with me. So I choose to like just stay above it in a way. When they go low, we go high.
Yeah.
If on a somewhat regular basis you got pinched, slapped, or punched, I'll bet you would actively look for ways to protect yourself and or look for opportunities to remove yourself from the situation. It's the same thing for people who are often on the receiving end of microaggressions at work. They make belonging elusive and give people real reasons to shut down and look for opportunities elsewhere. To close out this episode, remember that we all have a role to play in stamping out microaggressions. First, we can all take responsibility to better understand how to relate, communicate, and interact with people who are different from us in a manner that makes everyone comfortable. Second, we can be open to receiving feedback and not responding in a defensive way if someone does offer you the gift of explaining why something you did or said caused them harm in some way. And a third way is by being vigilant about calling out microaggressions that you witness. How you do it is up to you, but the more advocates and allies there are that will use their voice to stand up for others, the easier it becomes to create an environment where microaggressions are not only not tolerated, but non-existent. I want to make sure you're clear on what actions you can take based upon the learnings provided from the people I talked to, from this episode as well as others in this series. So I also want to provide a space to talk about and process what you heard. So at the end of this month, February 22nd through 24th, I'll be hosting a 3-day live virtual event where I'll walk you through next steps and an action plan, so to speak, to help you make more of the people you serve, both talent and consumers, feel like they belong with you. Go to listentothem.co. That's listentothem.co, where you can find all the details about the workshops and get registered. There you'll also find all the episodes in this series. That's it for this special edition episode of the Inclusion and Marketing Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, I would so appreciate it if you would share it with a friend so we can all work together to stamp out microaggressions. Until next time, remember, everyone deserves to have a place where they belong. Let's use our individual and collective power to ensure more people feel like they do. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you soon.